Welcome back to Growing the Good Life. This is Michelle Roberts, and today we are going to have our third garden tour. Our second garden tour was last week, and this is our third garden tour this week. I'm a little bit under the weather, so bear with me if I start coughing or clearing my throat a lot. This is the view we always start with. This is our first expansion. To the left, you'll see tomatoes, peppers, strawberries, a sea of landscape fabric to knock back the wiregrass, and it goes quite a ways. It took our garden to a pretty big expansion. We pretty much quadrupled it with that. And this is a wheelbarrow full of bare root strawberries that are going to go in the ground as soon as we make those beds down below that row of trees. So those are about 250 plants, and I'm excited to get those in the ground and let them start growing really seriously. These are some guys that need to get in the ground. You can see they are cinnamon basil and Genovese basil. They're super happy and they need to get in the ground, as does this Muir lettuce. This is between 60 and 70 heads of Muir lettuce that needs to go into a bed somewhere, and it will within the next day or so. This is another tray of Muir lettuce that's about 3 weeks behind the one you just saw. And at the bottom of the screen, you see another succession of scallions. At the top of the screen, you see an unfortunate group of tomato plants that have been in there entirely too long, but hopefully we will be able to salvage them once we get those lower rows covered and beds made. My volunteer dill is as tall as I am. Hopefully our pollinators will love it and we'll get some butterfly caterpillars on it. This row is just continuing on as it has been. Beautiful, beautiful snapdragons. This is a volunteer tomato plant. It's a cherry tomato, and it's either a SunGold or a Sweet 100. I don't know which, but tell me in the comments below what your guess is. It's either a SunGold or Sweet 100, and as it ripens and matures, we'll find out together. This is the celery row I've shown you. We had 5 days of rain 3 days of rain that gave us about 5 inches of rain. And so we have a lot of weeds. These weeds are now gone from here, but when I shot this video a few days back, they were still there in all their glory. My lettuces are doing a great job of growing. They're taking off, as are the weeds. This is our beautiful Muir lettuce and some dill. And that Muir lettuce, along with some carrots, went to Feeding Kids Cleveland County, which is a great organization here in Cleveland County that feeds kids over the summer when they're out of school. And so I was able to donate some of the fresh produce from our garden to that effort. I was super happy to be able to do that. You can see the weeds are going crazy here. This is to the right. You'll see the bed of scallions that's just kind of trucking along. And this is our bed of Mokum carrots. They're going to be rocking and rolling just like this for the next 6 weeks or so. And then we'll be ready to harvest those guys. And they're loving life. They get watered a couple times a day. They look like they need some water here. These are beautiful snapdragons. This is Madame Butterfly Red, and I highly recommend that you grow these. They're gorgeous. Long stems, just beautiful. These are zinnias and some hibiscus. The hibiscus looks like it's getting crowded out just a little bit, but nevertheless, things are going. Gorgeous, gorgeous zinnias. This is just a handful that Ruby planted, and there you go. The rest of the snapdragons, I seeded a tray of snapdragons, just one 72 cell tray, but it did yield quite a lot of snapdragons for me, and they're beautiful plants. They do overwinter in our zone. So here's some gorgeous Swiss chard. Gives me dinosaur vibes, or like a tropical dinosaur jungle vibe with this plant. There's so much we can't even keep up with it. It's delicious. These are some dahlias that overwintered, and a lot of my dahlias got killed by the 5 degrees Fahrenheit last winter, but this one did not, as well as the other one on the top of the screen here, and they are going to town. They were planted here and didn't die, and I was really happy to see that. There should have been some between those two plants, and they did die. Tell YouTube which birthday it is today.
Mine.
And how old are you?
9.
Yeah. Are you excited about your 9th birthday?
Yes.
Yes, great. What's your favorite part of the garden?
The snapdragons.
The snapdragons?
Yes.
Are they as pretty as you?
Yes.
Almost. That's my sweet pea. And here's my milkweed. I planted that. I did not plant the weeds around it, but I planted that for our pollinators. I got some bare root plants from Eden Brothers, and they're coming up really nicely. Here's another view of our awning. That's our refuge during the hot sun. We get a glass of water or a bottle of water and take a rest from working. These are some sad plants that will be rejuvenated once we get them out into the ground. And here's our first row of tomatoes. You can see we've got some Torrangina cherry tomatoes that are ripening nicely for us. We have about 80 plants per row, and we have 3 rows here, so that's close to 250 plants. And we've got this row tied up. We're going to do cattle panel trellises for the first 2 rows, and then we'll Florida weave between some low T-posts for the 3rd row. We have a lot of determinate tomatoes on that 3rd row, so those shorter T-posts should be okay for that. The carport that you see at the top of the screen, that's our farm stand. That will become our farm stand once we can catch our breath and start to harvest things. And there's a daughter that's riding around. This is just the overflow stuff we have that needs to get in the garden. Just waiting patiently to get, and some of it not so patiently, to get planted. Cucumbers, squash, zucchini, watermelon, cantaloupe, all kinds of things. This is a shot of the garden from the lower side. Usually I show you guys the garden from inside, but this time around I just wanted to give you a different view. And these are all the rows. Our weeds are definitely happy right now because of the rain that we just received. And it's a never-ending battle, as you all know, to keep the weeds away, but we do what we can. We do our best. That's the asparagus bed there at the very end of that main garden. This is our hedgerow of pecan trees, and this is our final expansion. This is about somewhere between 1/10 and 1/5 of an acre expansion, and it's going to house lots of tomatoes, lots of strawberries, lots of watermelon, cantaloupe down here, and these will be permanent raised beds, just like the rest of the garden. We have landscape fabric to cover, and we're looking to cover them for 2 years so that we can knock the wiregrass out of it for good, or mostly for good. One of these days I'd like a flame weeder, and that would really get rid of those things. The original garden is along the top of the screen to the right. You might even see the green awning at the top behind a tree. That's the viewpoint you're looking at. And then on past those pink flowers, you'll see our new expansion. And then this next view is of our asparagus bed. We picked off of the asparagus for between 3 and 4 weeks, and now we're giving it a rest. Next year, we'll probably pick off of this for much longer. You can see there are quite a few stalks and spears here that we let them grow so that the roots would have that much more energy, but it was really delicious. So we'll probably eat more next year. And this is up by the carport. So this is a really good vantage point. At the top of the screen, you can see the newest expansion. Midway, you see the original garden. And right in front of you, you see just that massive expansion. 3 rows of tomatoes. That's what you're looking at there. A row of peppers that we're still planting into, and then 2 rows of strawberries. We had to do a hackathon surgery on our landscape fabric here because it was pulling and it was covering up the strawberries that had already come through the holes. Even though we'd had it laid out for 2 days before we burned the holes, that landscape fabric shrunk like a whole foot and a half. So we had to fix it. And we did lose some strawberries, but we'll recover. As you can see, we've got 3 more rows to plant in this garden. We've got 4 rows to plant down below, so we're super busy. We are really happy that you're with us, and you could be anywhere. You chose to be with us. I really appreciate it. And here's our T-posts, 100 T-posts. That's our next project.